Imagine a world where laws change with every passing ruler, where education is scattered, and science merely a hobby. Then enters a man, known for battles and conquests, but beneath the armor lies the heart of a reformer, reshaping the very fabric of a nation. Dive with me into the untold story of Napoleon's silent revolution. Napoleon Bonaparte, the name conjures up images of a fierce general, a short man with a big hat, leading armies across Europe. But did you know there's another side to him? Not the warrior or the empire builder, but the unsung hero of modern-day France. Ah, yes. We're back to the Napoleonic Code, the legal cornerstone not just for France but, dare I say, for the world as we know it today. You see, this was more than just tidying up the mess of laws across France. This was about fundamentally rethinking how justice should be administered in modern society. So let's dig deeper and find out why this code is not just a relic of history but a living, breathing framework that has implications for our modern world. Imagine living in a world where justice feels like the toss of a coin, unreliable and capricious. It's almost like playing roulette, except the stakes are your life, property, and human rights. Napoleon recognized the inherent tragedy and inefficiency in this system. And so, he crystallized laws into a single, coherent, and universal code. But he did not just create laws, he practically invented the very concept of modern legislation. Now, why should you, sitting in front of a screen in the 21st century, care about a legal code from 1804? Brace yourselves, because the Napoleonic Code serves as the foundation for nearly a quarter of the world's jurisdictions. We're talking Europe, parts of Asia, Africa, and even the Americas. Civil law as we know it today, contract laws, property laws, family laws, all take a leaf out of Napoleon's book. And the beauty of it is that it didn't just benefit the high and mighty. Napoleon's code was designed to be a people's law. It was clearly written, accessible, and intended for every citizen to read, not just legal scholars. This is the genius of it. Napoleon democratized the law. In doing so, he set a precedent for how laws are constructed, communicated, and even critiqued, pioneering a transparent system that gave power back to the people. Moreover, his system of a meritocratic bureaucracy to enforce these laws became the gold standard. Without Napoleon, you could argue we might still be living in a world where justice is the privilege of the elite and chaos is the burden of the common people. Napoleon didn't just bring order to France, he brought fairness, efficiency, and a sense of equal opportunity that inspired legal systems the world over. And let's not forget the liberating impact it had on economies. Clear rules around property rights and contracts encouraged trade and investment, becoming a driving force for capitalism and economic modernization. When businesses and people know the rules of the game, when they know their property and contracts will be honored, they invest, they build, they strive. The influence of the Napoleonic Code on nurturing economic prosperity cannot be overstated. So, the next time you think about modern democracy, or you find yourself taking comfort in the stability of the law, or even just when you're signing a contract, remember, you're living in a world partially designed by Napoleon's silent revolution. And for that reason, this nearly 220-year-old code is not history, it is current events. It's not just French, it's global. It is not past, it is perpetually present. That, my friends, is the untold, ever-unfolding legacy of the Napoleonic Code, a cornerstone of our modern civilization that you and I navigate every single day. Ah, the saga of Napoleon's impact on French bureaucracy. If you're the sort of person who hears the word bureaucracy and thinks of tedious paperwork and never-ending queues, you're not alone. But let's just say, Napoleon's work in this domain was so revolutionary, so masterfully designed, that it merits a standing ovation from even the most cynical among us. The system he envisioned and implemented wasn't just about shuffling papers efficiently. No, it was about setting up an administrative machinery that was attuned to the heartbeat of the nation, one that could feel the pulse of every village, every town, every bustling city. The introduction of the system of prefix, a network of administrators overseeing each of France's numerous regions, was downright ingenious. These weren't just overseers, they were the vital connective tissue between the central government and the farthest reaches of the nation. Let's zoom in for a moment. Before Napoleon, France's provincial areas often felt detached, even alienated, from the central government. The policies enacted in Paris seemed like they were from another world. But with the prefix system, all of a sudden, local concerns had a direct hotline to the corridors of national power. These prefects made sure that the laws and reforms trickled down effectively to even the most remote corners of France. What does this mean for you and me? Imagine having a local representative who not only understands your day-to-day challenges but also has the power to voice these concerns at the highest level. That's local empowerment on steroids. Now, the golden nugget here is the concept of meritocracy. This is massive, folks. Before Napoleon, it was all about who you knew, not what you knew. Positions were filled based on connections, influence, and a healthy sprinkling of nepotism. But Napoleon flips the script. He transforms the bureaucracy into a ladder where the rungs are made of competence, not connections. This was revolutionary because it meant that talent and skill could catapult you to higher positions, breaking down centuries-old barriers. And this is a principle that resonates deeply in our modern world. From Silicon Valley to modern democracies, the idea that the best and brightest should lead, regardless of their background, is an enduring legacy of Napoleon's reforms. This shakeup wasn't just a win for efficiency, it was a win for social mobility. It was a win for fairness. It was a win for anyone who ever believed that they could contribute something meaningful if only given the chance. The next time you're grumbling about bureaucracy, just think, the whole notion that a civil servant should be competent rather than connected, that local issues should have a voice on a national stage, and that systems should be efficient and responsive, all of that can be traced back to Napoleon's administrative vision. In essence, what Napoleon managed to do was to build a sturdy bridge between governance and the governed, a model that countries around the world have been emulating ever since. He didn't just reform, he transformed. He didn't just change France, he gave the world a blueprint for administrative excellence. The future. Napoleon knew that a nation's future lies not in its present power but in the minds of its young. We've talked about laws, we've talked about administration, but what about the creators, thinkers, and leaders of tomorrow? That's right, we're diving into Napoleon's educational reforms, a topic so gripping it should come with a prepare to be mind-blown warning label. Picture this, France before Napoleon was a bit like a classroom with no teacher. Each region had its own ways of educating kids, some more effective than others, and for many, the access to even basic education was a distant dream. Then, along comes Napoleon, sweeping into this messy classroom like a new teacher on the first day of school, chalk in one hand and a grand vision in the other. First order of business, lycées. These are not your run-of-the-mill secondary schools, folks. These are institutions crafted with the intention of churning out citizens of the highest caliber, educated, disciplined, and, importantly, loyal to the ideals of the state. Lycées were to education what the Napoleonic Code was to law, a standardizing force that elevated the game for everyone. Here, young minds were not just filled with facts but were molded into future leaders and thinkers. It's akin to a modern, elite prep school, except it was available to more than just the aristocracy. And if you're sitting there wondering how this is relevant to you, well, think about it. The centralized education system Napoleon advocated has become the norm in many countries. The very idea that a nation's education should be consistent, methodical, and deeply interwoven with its civic and cultural identity, that's a page straight out of Napoleon's playbook. But he doesn't just stop at the youth. Napoleon goes one step further, he dives into higher education, into specialization. He wasn't just building an army of generalists, he was cultivating experts. Technical institutes were founded to foster skills in engineering, agriculture, and the sciences. And let's not forget his revival of the Sorbonne, an institution whose name alone can send shivers down academic spines. Under Napoleon, the Sorbonne regained its former glory, once again becoming a leading light in higher education, not just in France but across Europe. Why is this monumental? Because it created an ecosystem of intellectual growth, one that took young minds from their ABCs all the way to the complexities of advanced research and innovation. It provided a continuum of excellence that not only educated but also specialized. It's this ecosystem that has become the backbone for the scientific advancements and technological leaps we've seen in the last 2 centuries. Think about it, when education is strong, a nation isn't just growing, it's evolving. In today's world where education is often cited as the key to solving a multitude of global issues, from poverty to technological advancement, Napoleon's blueprint still rings true. He showed us that a nation that invests in its education is a nation that invests in its future. And that's not just smart, that's revolutionary. Ah, the Rosetta Stone, Egypt, the arts. Just when you think you've got Napoleon figured out, he surprises you. Military genius? Check. Legal pioneer? Check. Educational reformer? Double check. But just when you think the list ends there, he takes off his hat, quite literally, and reveals yet another feather, patron of sciences and arts. Let's put this in perspective. This is a man with an empire to rule, wars to wage, and a society to reform. Yet he finds the time, resources, and the intellectual bandwidth to be an advocate for the arts and sciences. We're talking about a leader who understood that the heart of a civilization doesn't just beat in its halls of power, but also in its libraries, laboratories, and theaters. His expedition to Egypt serves as a magnificent example. On the surface, it looked like a purely military campaign designed to cut off British trade routes. But what few people realize is that Napoleon packed his ships not just with soldiers, but also with scholars, artists, and scientists. His aim wasn't merely to conquer, it was to understand, absorb, and marvel at the scientific and cultural treasures Egypt had to offer. And boy, did it pay off. The discovery of the Rosetta Stone under his patronage isn't just a footnote in history, it's one of the most groundbreaking moments in the field of linguistics and Egyptology. This slab of rock became the key to deciphering hieroglyphics, and by extension, understanding an entire civilization that had remained shrouded in mystery. Talk about unlocking the past to understand the future. And let's zoom out a bit here. This wasn't just about Egypt. This was about setting a precedent for how we approach exploration, and how we treat the confluence of science, history, and culture. This is the real reason we still send scientists alongside soldiers whenever we're stepping into unknown territories, whether it's the depths of the ocean, the peaks of uncharted mountains, or, dare we say, the far reaches of outer space. Plus, let's not overlook the renaissance of arts that took place under his rule. Painters, musicians, and authors found not just a patron but a platform during his reign. Through his sponsorship, the arts weren't just decorative, they became instrumental in shaping public sentiment and national identity. The cultural landscape of France was not just beautified, it was electrified. In our modern world, where STEM fields and the arts often seem to be in a constant struggle for funding and attention, Napoleon's integrated approach serves as a timeless lesson. It tells us that progress is multifaceted. It whispers in our ears that a society can only reach its zenith when it nurtures both its calculative intellect and its creative soul. So when you're marveling at modern technological advancements or finding solace in a piece of art, remember that the roots of this harmonious coexistence between science and arts can be traced back to visionaries like Napoleon. He didn't just win battles, he won over the minds and hearts of generations to come. So the next time you think of Napoleon, think beyond the battles. Think of a man who not only changed the trajectory of wars but also laid the foundation stones of modern France. If you enjoyed this journey through time, then hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments below, and, of course, don't forget to subscribe for more tales from the annals of history. Until next time, keep the wheels of time turning.